Hello friends, welcome to WowAS. Welcome to the discussion on Vision Social Issues PT365, and this is part 1 where we are going to start with the first chapter, that is Women and Child. So as you know, in this lecture series we are going to cover the summary and the important information related to the PT365 which will be useful for our prelims 2021. Okay, so as part of this initiative only, we are going to now cover with the social issues and look all the information that is relevant from the prelims point of view and even try to memorize them as well. Now let's begin. So here the first topic what we have is the woman and child. In that the first topic is woman and child's health. So in this woman and child's health, some data is given and some definitions are given. From the prelims point of view, it is very important for us to remember the definition. They might not give the data directly, but these definitions they might just directly ask. So the first one, what we have is the under 5 mortality rate. So under 5 mortality rate, if you see, it is nothing but the number of children who are dying below 5 years per every 1000 live births. This is the information per every 1000 live births. This number they can change and they can give per every 10,000 live births or 1 lakh. But remember, under 5 means the number of children who are dying. That means the number of children between 0 to 5 years who are dying per every 1000 live births. Okay. So in 1990, so the under 5 mortality rate for male was 122 and for female was 131, and it reduced to 34 for male in 2019. For female it is 35 and overall it is 38. So this is what is the data. So next one is the infant mortality rate. So as the name suggests, it is infants, that means below 1 year. So the deaths of the children who are below 1 year per every 1000 live births. So for this also it is 1000 live births only. So here it is given, it declined to 32 in 2018 from 129 in 1971. And in the last 10 years, the infant mortality rate declined by 35% in rural and 32% in urban. See, this data, all these data, this will become useful for your mains, this small data. But for your prelims, it is not much important to remember all this data. We just need to remember the trends and also the definitions. So here you have just the important thing to remember is Madhya Pradesh has the highest infant mortality rate, whereas Nagaland has the lowest infant mortality rate. Remember this. Next one, neonatal mortality rate. So neonatal means we have seen infant means 0 to 1 year. So neonatal means 0 to 28 days. Okay, the number of children who are dying from 0 days to 28 days per every 1000 live births. That means for every 1000 births, how many children are dying within the first 1 month from 0 to 28 days. Okay, this is called the neonatal mortality rate, and this declined between 1990 to 2019 from 57 to 22. Next one is the maternal mortality rate. So maternal mortality rate means the number of maternal deaths per 1 lakh live births. So remember, for maternal mortality it is 1 lakh live births and not 1000. So for rest of them we have 1000, but only for maternal mortality it is 1 lakh. Remember this. So maternal death is the death of woman while pregnant or within 42 days of pregnancy termination. Okay, so remember this, maternal death means not only a woman who gave birth, but maternal death is death of a woman while being pregnant or within 42 days of pregnancy termination. Okay, so those who gave birth, okay, so those who gave birth or those who are pregnant or within 42 days from the termination of pregnancy. So these three are the conditions for maternal mortality and the number of women who are dying per every 1 lakh live births. Okay, so this also declined to 113 in 2016-18 from 122 in 2015-17. The highest maternal mortality rate is there in Assam and the lowest is there in Kerala. Okay, next one, adolescent mortality rate. So adolescent mortality rate means the death of children between 10 to 19 years. Okay, the number of children who are between 10 to 19 years per 1000 children of the same age. For every 1000 children, how many children are dying of the age of 10 to 19 years? This is known as adolescent mortality rate, and this also declined by 40% since 1990. So if you observe all these mortality rates, the mortality rates of all these under 5 or infant or neonatal or maternal or adolescent, the trend is they are declining. They are declining in the past few decades. Okay, so next one is the birth rate. Birth rate is the live births per 1000 people that means for every 1000 people, how many new children are born per year. This is known as birth rate. So remember here the important thing is 1000 of population per year. That means for every 1000 population per year, how many children are born? This is known as the birth rate. Remember this. So this declined from 36.9 in 1971 to 20 in 2018. So the rural urban differential narrowed, but still higher in rural. So death rate is the number of deaths per 1000 people per year. So birth means number of children born per 1000 in a year. Here death rate means number of deaths per 1000 people in a year. Okay, so this also declined to 6.2 from 2000 in 2018 from 14.9 in 1971. Chhattisgarh has the highest death rate of 8, while Delhi has the least of 3.3. Okay, next one is sex ratio at birth. Sex ratio, as you might know, it is the number of male births per female births. And next one, what you have is the total fertility rate. So total fertility rate is the children born or likely to be born to a woman in her lifetime. That means how many children will be born to a woman in her lifetime is nothing but the total fertility rate. So the total fertility rate of 2.1 children per woman is the replacement level of fertility. The total fertility rate is lower than replacement fertility level. So that means the country's population will be reducing. Okay, so this replacement fertility level, so it has to be somewhat near to the total fertility rate, otherwise the population will reduce. Okay, which is not good when we talk about the demographic dividend. The total fertility rate has reduced from 3.6 in 1991 to 2.2 in 2018, and the major decrease we have seen in South India, whereas in North India we have not seen much difference. Okay, so next information is about the institutional delivery. Institutional delivery means the number of children who are born under supervision. That means mostly in hospitals if they are born, then it is known as institutional delivery. The childbirth at medical facilities equipped with the technology under skilled attendant supervision. Okay, this is what is institutional delivery. So in the last 20 years, if you see, the number of deliveries, number of children born in hospitals is increased by 73% in rural and 37% in urban, because there is not much scope in the urban areas to improve, right? So now we have seen all the important definitions. The birth rate, death rate, that means the number of children who are born per every 1000 people in the population. Number of people who are dying per every 1000 people in the population is death rate. The next, total fertility rate means the number of children who will be born to a woman is called the total fertility rate. Okay, so institutional delivery, it is nothing but the children who are born with the technology and under a skilled supervision. This is called as institutional delivery, right? So these are the important information that we need to know from prelims point of view. So next, what you have is the Suman scheme. So Suman means Safe Motherhood Assurance. So remember Suman, S for safe, M for motherhood, A for assurance. Just try to remember these three: Safe Motherhood Assurance. Then you will remember about Suman. So why this was in news is the Ministry of Health, it has highlighted the importance of Suman at a partnership for maternal, newborn and child health, PMNCH accountability breakfast event. So in that event this was highlighted. So PMNCH, the partnership for maternal, newborn and child health, it is the world's largest alliance for women, children and adolescents health. Okay, and it has 1000 partners across 192 countries. So it enables partners to share strategies. That means all the people who are there, the different partners, they will be sharing strategies, aligning objectives. They talk about the resources and various interventions, what they are doing, their best practices, everything will be shared. And the vice chair of PMNCH board are the Government of India and UK. So now if you see some more information about this Suman scheme, the Safe Motherhood Assurance scheme. So here this is the initiative of the Ministry of Health. As the name suggests, this is mainly to reduce the maternal and the neonatal mortality. Maternal mortality we have seen, a woman who gave birth or who is pregnant, or the termination of pregnancy, who has terminated the pregnancy. So to reduce these deaths, this Suman scheme was launched. Okay, so the main intention or the main benefits for the women under this Suman scheme is mainly they will be provided the zero cost delivery, the free transport and zero tolerance for denial of services at the public health facility. So all of these are important features of this scheme. And under this scheme, free checkups will be provided to the woman. Okay, free checkups will be provided to the woman, and during the first trimester, first checkup will be there, and along with that, some food supplements also will be given to the woman, because the nutrition deficit is something which is there in both women as well as children. So in order to reduce these things, the iron folic acid supplement, the tetanus, diphtheria injections, etc., all of these things will be given to the woman. Okay. So this is the scheme. This is the information about Suman. So Suman is nothing but to reduce the maternal mortality and the neonatal mortality in the women and children, right? So now let's move on to the next one, next topic. So here some information is given about the sample registration system. So sample registration system bulletin, it is actually it was released recently, so that's why this was in news. So demographic survey for reliable estimates of IMR, birth rate, death rate, and other fertility and mortality indicators at national and subnational levels. It was initiated on pilot basis earlier in 1964 and was operational from 1969-70, conducted by the Office of Registrar General and Census Commissioner. So what we need to remember under this sample registration system is, it is nothing but a demographic survey which gives estimate of all of these indicators whose definitions which we have seen already. Okay, and this sample registration system is conducted by Office of Registrar General and Census Commissioner under the Home Ministry. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic, women education. And here are some of the facts given related to the women education. So if you see the female enrollment ratio, it is 48.6%, and in STEM it is 40% graduates are women. Global average is 35%, so it is above. But if you see the researchers, the number of researchers in women, it is only 14%, while the global average is 30%. So STEM is nothing but the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Okay. So see, if you ask me if these type of data will be asked in the question exam directly, the answer is no. This type of data will not be asked in the question directly, but they might ask some trends. For example, if you see this gross enrollment ratio, so here for the women it is 26.4%, and for men it is 26.3%, and this is also in the higher education. Okay, so women gross enrollment ratio in higher education is higher than men. You can see the difference here. So this trend they can ask as a statement directly. The gross enrollment ratio for women is higher than men in the higher education. So higher education means it is from up to 18 to 23 years. Okay, and gross enrollment ratio is number of students enrolling. Okay, number of students enrolling out of total eligible. This is called as gross enrollment ratio. So the number of women enrolling in the higher education is higher compared to that of the men. Okay, so next is the gender parity index. It increased from 0.92 in 2014-15 to 1 in 2018-19. Next is the STEM career opportunities for women. So if you see the Department of Science and Technology, it has collaborated with IPM, and it has launched two initiatives, the Vigyan Jyoti and the Vigyan Prasar. This is mainly to promote STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics among women. Because if you see the number of women in sciences, especially in the research and in mathematics, etc., are very less. So in order to improve the number of women and in order to bring the gender parity, this scheme was launched. Okay, so the two schemes, Vigyan Jyoti and Vigyan Prasar. So Vigyan Jyoti, if you see here, the women who want to pursue the career in STEM, they will be able to interact with the women who are working in IBM. Okay, so the techie women who are working in IBM, they will be interacting with the normal women who want to pursue their career in STEM, and these women who are working in IBM, they can become a role model for inspiring girls who are planning their career in the STEM. Okay, so this is about the Vigyan Jyoti. So the main aim of Vigyan Jyoti and Vigyan Prasar is promoting STEM. The first thing we need to remember. Okay, and this Vigyan Jyoti, if you see, it is applicable, or the girls who are currently in between 9 to 12 years, 9th standard to 12th standard. The girls who are in between 9th standard to 12th standard, between 9th and 12th, they can actually participate in this, and they can take inspiration from the women who are working in IBM. The next one is the Vigyan Prasar. So Vigyan Prasar is basically a platform which is also known as Engage with Science. Okay, here IBM will be running day-to-day activities like student workshops, seminars, and what they will do is they will leverage the expertise. They will share the expertise what they have, and so that the women or the girls who are in between that age of let's say 14 to 16, they can take an informed decision. They can take an informed call who are between 9th and 12th, so that they can pursue their career in sciences and they can do well. Okay. So this is the information about Vigyan Prasar and Vigyan Jyoti. And another information, this Vigyan Prasar, if you see here, the students, teacher and scientists, they will be also be linked to the students. Okay, so they will come together. In fact, the teachers and the scientists, they will interact more with the students. Now let's move on to the next topic. So next, some of the initiatives which are taken to reduce the gender gap are given. We will see that. So the Science and Technology Policy 2020 was announced, which talks about bridging the gender gap. Next, the knowledge involvement in research advancement through nurturing, the Kiran. So Kiran is nothing but research and advancement through nurturing. Okay, this was initially launched in 2014, but later the Department of Science and Technology restructured it, which is mainly to bring the gender parity. So under this Kiran, the women scientists who are there, they will be provided various career opportunities, and also they will be given various choices to relocate, etc. Okay, because normally if you see, when a woman gets married, the main challenge what they will face is the relocation. So to ensure that they will be able to relocate in a positive way, and they don't face any issues or any hurdles with regard to continuing their career, this scheme will help. Okay, also another important thing is the Curie initiative under this. So Curie is nothing but consolidation of university research through innovation and excellence in women university. Okay, so this Curie initiative, you see, it is only for women universities and are supported for development of research infrastructure and state-of-the-art research laboratories. This is mainly to ensure the research infrastructure improves. Okay, so next one is the Indo-US Fellowship for Women in STEM. So if you see this initiative, this is mainly to encourage women to undertake international collaborative research and USA's premier institutions. Okay, so this is about it, and it is jointly launched by Department of Science and Technology and Indo-US Science and Technology Forum. Next one is UDAN. So there are two UDANs. So first UDAN is with regarding to the Aviation Ministry, and this UDAN is mainly to address lowering girl enrollment ratio in science and engineering. This is to enhance the teaching and learning of science and engineering, or you can say science and mathematics also, along with engineering at secondary level, so that students can develop their interest in all these subjects and they can pursue their career in the STEM. Okay, so here free online resources will be provided to the girls, and it will support 1,000 girls every year belonging to the disadvantaged sections. This is about UDAN. Right, so next initiative is the BioCare. So remember, BioCare is nothing but bio stands for biotechnology, care stands for career advancement through reorientation program, career advancement. So the Department of Biotechnology focus on the career development of the women scientists up to 55 years of age, because normally women actually take long vacations in their careers because of their children and other reasons. So because of this, what is happening, they are not able to grow in their career. So in order to give them a boost, in order to support them, this initiative was launched. Next one is Gender Advancement of Transforming Institutions, Gati, under Department of Science and Technology. This is to bring gender balance in the institutions. Okay, so Gati for transforming, so gender advancement and for the transformation of institutions. Okay, this is what is Gati. So next is the Women Entrepreneurship Empowerment, launched by IIT Delhi in support with the Department of Science and Technology to strengthen women entrepreneurship, and also this will link the women entrepreneurs to potential investors. This is about women entrepreneurship and empowerment, launched by IIT Delhi in support with Department of Science and Technology. Next is Athena Swan Charter. So this Athena Swan Charter belongs to UK. This was taken inspiration, and now the Department of Science and Technology has launched a grading system where the enrollment of women faculty and scientists will be used to grade the institutions. Okay, so this is the important information of Athena Swan Charter. Right, so for the accreditation of institutions, this will be used. Next topic, if you see, it is with regarding to the protection of women. Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. This was in news. So Supreme Court has ruled that women have the right to residence in a shared house even if that house is rented or owned by in-laws and husband has no ownership right over it. Okay, this is mainly to ensure that the violence against women reduces. Normally, if you see domestic violence, there are 4 kinds of domestic violences for women: sexual, economical, physical, and verbal or emotional violence. So in order to ensure that these kind of violences reduce, the government has brought this law called the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. So here any aggrieved woman can approach the law agencies for the protection, for the compensation, protection, and right to residence. For all of these three, women can approach the law enforcement agencies. This protection of women from domestic violence is built on the UN Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and India has ratified this. Okay, so another important information we need to know here is that a shared household is nothing but a household where woman has lived in or is living along with the husband. Okay, that is called a shared household, and that house might not be an owned one, it may be a rented house also. Okay, so if their in-laws ask the woman to go from that house, then she can approach the law agencies by claiming that she has the right to reside in that house. Okay, so that means she has some ownership, so she has some stake in that house. Okay, and also this act excludes abuses pertaining to marital rape. This is the important information we need to remember. It excludes abuses pertaining to marital rape. And also the protection against domestic violence, if you see, the woman can seek financial compensation to get upkeep from her abuser if living apart. So financial compensation can be provided to the woman. And if you see other information, the punishment under this act is 1 year imprisonment and 20,000 both or 120,000 rupees, or can be both. And also there is a protection officer in every district, you can say. So this protection officer will be responsible to protect the woman, and also some NGOs will be tagged in so that the woman can get help for medical examination, legal aid, and safe shelter. And also there is some exclusion of liability of the informant. That means a person who has informed the law agencies with regarding to the violence that has been happening against the woman, then that the person who has given the information, then he can be excluded. Okay, so there is no liability on him. This is the important thing. So these are the important some pieces of information we need to remember from the examination point of view. And there are some maintenance rules as well. So under the maintenance rules, the maintenance has to be given for the woman if they are separated, even though if the woman is working or not, that does not matter. Even if the woman is working also, the maintenance has to be given to the woman. Okay, so some other important judgments which is related to the prevention of violence against domestic violence against women. If you see, adult male word was struck from the Protection of Women Against the Domestic Violence Act. So woman can now file a complaint against another woman. So what does this mean? This means if the mother-in-law is torturing the daughter-in-law, then the daughter-in-law, okay, she can go against the mother-in-law also. A case can be filed because this also pertains to domestic violence. Okay, and also the woman against, if you see this law, it also protects women against marital abuse. Okay, it will even apply after the divorce also. And also live-in partner can seek a maintenance according to the Supreme Court judgment, and as I told already, the granting of maintenance does not depend on the wife earning, right? So here if you see, what are the things that we need to remember at any cost? So first, remember this act is in line with the UN Convention on the elimination of all forms of domestic violence against women. So next thing is a woman can live with the husband, or you can say a woman can live in the shared household even if it is rented or owned by in-laws. That means woman has stake in the house. That is another thing. And also remember about this protection officer and the punishment. So these are the important information we need to remember. Right, now let's move on. Next is important. Next topic is sexual harassment. So a lot of Indian companies, they have not implemented the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. Okay, this act was passed in 2013, and this is in line with the Vishaka guidelines. You might have heard about this Vishaka guidelines, where Supreme Court gave some guidelines with regarding to the sexual harassment of women at workplace. So what does this act do is, this act of 2013, it has defined the sexual harassment. It has defined what is sexual harassment at workplace, and also created a complaint redressal mechanism. So this complaint redressal mechanism is basically a mechanism which is installed in the companies, so that women who has faced sexual harassments can use this complaint redressal mechanism to complain against the people who are harassing them. Okay, and also this provides safeguard against false charges, and this is in line with the Vishaka guidelines. You can see there are some online platforms like the Shebox for women employees to file the complaints related to the sexual harassment at workplace. So next one is the National Database of Sexual Offenders. So this National Database of Sexual Offenders, if you see, this is nothing but a national database which is maintained by the NCRB, National Crime Record Bureau. Okay, this will maintain this database where the people, or the names of the people who are the names of the people who are charged with rape, gang rape, child sexual abuse, and eve teasing. Okay, their names will be placed in this national database. And recently it has crossed 1 million names. And this is the exclusive database which will be used only by the law enforcement agencies. This is launched by the Home Ministry in 2018. So remember, this is maintained by NCRB. It has the names of the convicts who was charged based on the rape, gang rape, child sexual abuse, and eve teasing. Okay? Right. So next one, if you see, next, this is some more information about the POSH Act, that is Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. This act was passed in 2013, and this act is applicable both to the formal as well as the informal sectors. So formal sector means a sector which has more than 10 employees, you can say, and there actually there should be an internal complaint committee. Okay, in the formal sector, that means an office with more than 10 women employees, it has to have an internal complaint committee, and this internal complaint committee has the power of a civil court. They will inquire and they will take a decision based on the complaint given, and this internal complaint committee should have members from the local NGOs who work towards women cause also should be there. And there is another sector called the informal sector, that means which is employing less than 10 women. So here what women can do is women can directly complain to a state government's designated district officer or the collector directly. Okay, and an additional local complaint committee at the block level will also be created so that women can directly approach that, right? So this is about the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. So that's it guys for this lecture. We will continue this chapter 1 in the next lecture. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned. Jai Hind.